All right, what is going? What is happening? How is everybody doing today? My name is Chuck and welcome back to a brand new video. So today we have the brand new season 4 reloaded update, and they came out with some crazy patch notes that makes this the biggest change to weapon buffs and nerfs in Warzone history. There's a literal laundry list of stuff that changed. So what I went ahead and did is I took all the buffs and nerfs into consideration and I crafted some brand new classes for you guys to use. But a quick reminder, if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys drop a like in the next 5 seconds for some good luck and hit that subscribe button with all notifications turned on because I'm on the road to 800,000 subscribers and it'd be amazing if you join the squad. Okay, so the first gun we're taking a look at here is going to be the ground 5.56, and this actually did get buffed here within the patch notes, so that's why we're definitely taking a look at it here. So the first thing I have on here is the monolithic suppressor. This is going to be the best thing you guys can possibly run on the growl. Next up in the barrel section, we happen to have the Tempest 26.4 Archangel barrel. This is definitely going to be the best barrel you guys can possibly run on the growl. There's no real ifs, ands, or buts about it. Next up, we have the tack laser for that increased ADS speed. I think this is genuinely an amazing option, so you guys should definitely go and check this one out. And then I do happen to have the Commando foregrip on here, which is a pretty solid option as well. I don't really think you need anything else, to be honest with you. This does not have hardly any recoil, so you should just definitely be okay with the Commando. And to finish this whole thing off, we have the 60-round magazine, aka my favorite thing. I'm a 60-round magazine kind of guy, so this is definitely my favorite growl build right now. We could potentially be seeing a return to Season 1 Warzone with a meta, because this thing is a very dominant AR after update. Now let's check out the M13, as this also got a buff as well, so this is going to be really good here. First thing is first, monolithic suppressor like we happen to have on the ground. We run this on all of our Modern Warfare weapons, basically. There's no real reason to run like a lightweight or a tactical any other point in time. It's not like the Cold War stuff where it's actually beneficial to switch between the two. So just always run the monolithic. Next up, we have the Tempest Marksman barrel. This is the longest barrel possible, so definitely go ahead and run this one because this is a primary AR. We're not trying to make this a hybrid or anything like an SMG. Next up, we have the underbarrel section with that Commando foregrip. Like I said, with the growl, it doesn't have much recoil, and the same thing goes for the M13. This thing hardly has any recoil, so just throwing the most minimalistic grip possible, which is the Commando. We're throwing on the 60-round magazine here. Obviously, 60-round magazine kind of guy, and this thing has a super high fire rate, so you just kind of want to have a 60 on here. And to finish this whole thing off, we have the VLK 3x optic, which is going to be an amazing optic. But if you want to change this out, you can maybe run something like a Corp Combat Hollow Sight with whatever, you know, blue dot or anything else you really want to. But I personally recommend a VLK, and this is going to be a great build for the updated and buffed M13. Now for another gun that did get buffed, that's indeed going to be the Craig 6. So let's jump into this here. First thing is first, the agency suppressor. We're running this instead of the regular suppressor because this regular one is more geared towards SMGs, close quarter builds, and obviously the Craig is a primary AR, which is going to be used for range. So you definitely want to run the agency on this thing. Next up in the barrel section, we got the 19.7 Ranger barrel for the increased bullet velocity and vertical recoil control. We're not running the takedown as this is not nearly as effective as the Ranger barrel, so just always run the Ranger and you'll be good to go. In the underbarrel section, we got the field agent grip for that vertical and horizontal recoil control. This is amazing, and I would highly recommend you guys only run this grip basically exclusively. Next up in the ammunition, that's standard, that Stenag 60-round magazine, because this is what we like to run on our ARs here for our primary. And then to finish this whole thing off, we have the Exel Arms 3x, which is going to be a fantastic optic here for basically all of the Cold War assault rifles. You really don't got to get crazy with this thing. The Craig 6 is just a really solid AR, and it's going to be even better now that it did get buffed. Now here's an interesting one that I don't think anybody was expecting. Now we have the ISO, which got a buff as well. So first thing here, we're jumping into the barrel section, and this is like the MP5 because it has the integrated monolithic suppressor on this FSS Nightshade barrel. So we get like our 4 pros here, which is incredible, and we're just going to basically bypass having to use a suppressor. So we got the 2-for-1 type of deal right now, so that gives us another attachment to use on a different slot. So we have that. Then we have the Commando foregrip here for our underbarrel. This thing, we don't really want to slow down our ADS too much. This thing can be a tad bit clunky if you start doing that, and we definitely do not want to do that. So we're just going to do that there. And for the ammunition, we have the 50-round drum magazine. This is the largest magazine you can get. This thing has a high fire rate, so you definitely want to make sure you have that 50-round drum magazine. Next up in the laser section, this is what we're kind of using as our extra attachment here. We have the 5MW laser for that increased hipfire accuracy and sprint to fire speed. Overall, a really great attachment. This is your close quarters gun, so having that better sprint to fire and hip fire accuracy is going to mean you take more people out at close range. So we're going to do that. And then to finish this whole thing off, we have the ISO collapsible stock here for that increased movement speed and ADS speed. Of course, this does hinder your aiming stability slash recoil control a little bit, but this thing really doesn't have much recoil, and this is a close quarters gun, so you guys should be entirely fine. Was not expecting them to buff the ISO, but hey, they buffed it, and it's now going to be really good. Now, another gun I don't think anybody was expecting here, that's indeed going to be the Uzi. So this actually got buffed as well. So first thing, obviously, mono suppressor, not going to explain that too much. Now we go into the barrel. We're going to use the last barrel you can use on this thing, the FSS Carbine Pro. This is going to be the best barrel by far. There's no real reason to run anything else. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense for you guys to run something. We're trying to make this as lethal as possible, and this also got buffed, so, you know, we're just trying to make sure that we can use it. Now, in the underbarrel section, we got that Merc foregrip. This is going to really help with your recoil control, because the Uzi can be a little bit weird for recoil, so we want to make sure we control that and also get some pretty awesome hipfire accuracy. Then on the ammunition side of things, we have the .41 AE 32 round magazine. This is going to be that magazine that's going to help genuinely increase your damage and range. It's not the biggest size magazine, but it's going to make this gun the most effective at what it can do. So you guys should just always run this. That's kind of like the downside with it, in my opinion. That's why I don't run it, is because that magazine size just isn't big enough for me. But, you know, it kind of is what it is. And then to finish this whole thing off, we have the stipple grip tape. You guys could definitely run this, or you could potentially switch this out for something like the no stock. You'll be entirely fine right there. It's just kind of like a personal preference thing. I could run either or, so definitely go try out either the stipple, the no stock, and the Uzi is now going to be a much more viable gun after the update. So here on the channel, I genuinely love posting the M4, and I mean, it got a buff and it also got a nerf. So we're trying to use a pretty similar class setup here to kind of maximize our benefits, aka mono suppressor as the first thing. We have the stock M16 Grenadier barrel as our second attachment. This is, you know, the longest barrel possible in the M4. I see some people sometimes use the Corvus Custom Marksman, but I would definitely say that the M16 barrel is going to be the best one by far. Throwing on the Commando foregrip here as our underbarrel. We don't ever like to go for something like the Merc or anything else like the Ranger or like the Operator. It just doesn't really make sense. Just stick with that Commando and call it a day. For the ammunition, we got that 60 round magazine overall. I mean, 60 round magazine kind of guy. That's kind of like what I do. I don't ever run 50. I think that's just a bunch of shenanigans. We're running 60. That's how we do it here, and it works perfectly for me. And then to finish this whole thing off, we got the VLK 3x optic. Once again, this is a standard M4 build. This build just didn't change too much because it was already incredible, and this is just going to maximize the benefits we have. So the AMAX is also another gun that kind of got buffed and nerfed, so let's jump into this standard setup here for this. Obviously, mono suppressor. Next up on the XR, we have the XRK S440 barrel here. This is obviously the longest barrel on the AMAX, so you guys should just definitely go ahead and run this one. And for the underbarrel, that standard Commando foregrip. I don't really got to spend too much time explaining all these because, I mean, you guys know what Commando foregrip is. You guys know what it does. And for the ammunition, we got the largest magazine size here, that 45 round magazine. Overall, I mean, hey, you know, the 45 round, it's not as much as I'd like, but it is the largest magazine, so we got that. Then, of course, to finish this whole thing off, the VLK 3x optic. Once again, a standard AMAX setup, but this thing got buffed and nerfed again. So, I mean, hey, we can still definitely use it though. Now let's take a look at the Bullfrog. This is another gun that did kind of get buffed and nerfed at the same time. So we happen to have the sound suppressor here as our first attachment. Like I said, this is the suppressor that is aimed at SMGs in my opinion. So just because that ADS speed, the bullet velocity, sprint to fire speed, it just makes sense that if you want to have an SMG, you throw on this type of suppressor as opposed to the GRU. Just doesn't make much sense to throw on the GRU over this thing. So we're throwing the sound suppressor on there. For the barrel, we have the 7.4 Task Force. This is the largest barrel possible, and that vertical and horizontal recoil control, you don't really notice it, to be honest with you, so you might as well just throw this on there as it's going to be the best thing. For the underbarrel, we don't really have a technical underbarrel. We have the bruiser grip, which is going to increase our movement speed and hipfire accuracy. It doesn't help out with our recoil control at all, but that's just because this thing doesn't have much recoil anyways. So you guys might as well just take advantage and kind of increase your movement speed and everything. Next up, we're in the rear grip section here. We got that Serpent wrap for that increased ADS time. I think this is overall incredible, and you guys should definitely go ahead and try out the Serpent wrap on this thing. I've been really liking it on this gun. And to finish this whole build off here, we have the KGB skeletal stock. This is going to help us out with our mobility, which is going to be great. So this is a banger Bullfrog build. You know, buffed and nerfed, it's still going to be, you know, top tier in my opinion. Give it a shot. The Groza is now another gun that got touched, so let's jump into this one here. For the muzzle, we have the regular suppressor on here because this is kind of used as like a hybrid AR SMG. It's not particularly good at long range, but it's not particularly super good at close range. It's just kind of a mix of both. So you just want to roll the regular suppressor here because we're using this as more or less a closer to medium range build at max. So just go ahead and use this. For the barrel, we have that 16.5 CMV mil spec. This is basically the task force barrel. It's the heaviest barrel you got, so you might as well throw that on there. And then for the underbarrel, we're running that Spetsnaz speed grip because this thing can have some weird like circular recoil. It's just a little bit odd, so we want to be able to control that as much as possible, and the Spetsnaz grip is going to be able to do that. And for the ammunition, we got that 60 round magazine like always. You know what I'm talking about here, 60 round magazine kind of guy, so that's how we do it. And to finish this whole thing out, the Spetsnaz PKM stock gear, which is going to increase our mobility, and it's going to help us be a little bit more effective in those closer to medium range situations. So this is a gun that I probably won't use, to be honest with you guys, but it's definitely a gun that got touched and buffed, so you can definitely give it a shot. So the FAR 83 is going to be our last gun here today. This did get a little bit nerfed in terms of the recoil and like the range, I think, ever so slightly. So we're just kind of adjusting our class accordingly here. First thing, we have the Groove Suppressor. This is a primary AR build, so we're trying to increase our range, and of course this will help out that vertical recoil. This is going to help us out with that nerf right there. In the barrel section, we have the 18.7 Spetsnaz, which is once again going to help us make us more effective at, you know, those longer ranges, and it's going to help us with our recoil as well. So we're trying to make this thing, you know, it's still a laser beam like it was pre-patch. And then for the underbarrel section, we have our Spetsnaz grip here for that vertical and horizontal recoil control. Overall, amazing. And then for the ammunition, we got the Spetsnaz 60 round magazine for that increased ammo capacity. And then for our last thing, we have the Axle Arms 3x. A pretty basic setup here for the FAR 83, but it's still going to be incredibly effective, even though it kind of got a little bit nerfed, but it really shouldn't do that much at all. That's all I got for you guys here today. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe if you are brand new, turn on those post notifications, and comment down below what is your favorite gun to use after the update. With that being said, just our neutral captain will be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.